This week on RSBANDB Update, we dive into Extinction, RuneScape's newest Grandmaster quest. We summarize its plot, underscoring its key themes, and its nature as an ending to the Elder God Wars. As characters reach their endpoints, did Seren get worse, or did she get better? This is RSBANDB Update, episode 877, recorded Thursday, April 7th, 2022. Surviving Extinction. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Tanis and myself are back after what has proven to be a very, very busy and eventful week.
This is going to be a big one, right, Shane?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, especially the fact that we have a quest, a Grandmaster quest named Extinction, and it's a big quest, and as such, we have a really big panel here joining us for this. So as it is Quest Week, this week we have Questscaping. Welcome back, who you heard last week, Quester and Morehound from Clan Quest.
Hello, back again. Now with actual hindsight on the quest this time.
Yeah, that adds a lot to it, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Earth is also here, who is known for his wild takes back when we discussed Eye of Het.
Wild? Excuse you.
Hey, everybody found it absolutely interesting what you had to say about Zamorak with that. So, and also joining us.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Also joining us is Alaska, head of Clan Quest RS3, Guild Council, longtime RS player, who has played each quest in game, you said what, at least twice, right?
At least twice. This goes endgame a few more times. But yeah, glad to finally be here.
We just got tons of questers here. How does that make you feel, Tanis, when you realize there's somebody in our presence here right now who has played endgame probably 4 times plus?
Outnumbered.
On purpose.
Yeah, no. Hey, I mean, great. Good on you. I barely made it once.
Yeah. Being stuck in that maze for a while isn't fun after the first 2 times, but yes.
Well, folks, you needn't worry because there's actually no maze on this quest. I felt it was all relatively straightforward, so there's that, at least. We're going to talk about Extinction. This is, of course, Quest Week, so there will be full spoilers and whatnot, so just be aware of that. Everybody, we're going to give it the usual RSBANDB Update Quest Week treatment. If you want to follow along, we have full show notes available at update.rsbnb.com. You can find me in-game at Tanis. I'm not Tanis79. He's Tanis79. I'm sorry about that. I'm Shane12088. Earth is at Lord Earth. Questscaping is at Questscaping presently. And Alaska can be found in-game at Miss Alaska. So, I should also mention this week that we had a fun sit-down with Mod Jack and Mod Shrike, and we talked about this. Wasn't that a fun time, Tanis?
Well, it was a great episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
We got some insight into how Extinction was made, and that's part of the reason why we're not doing a question segment here this week. In addition to everything being so long, we had a bunch of good questions on that episode that we talked about as well. But nonetheless, if you want to watch that or listen to that, that's on our website at update.rsbnb.com or YouTube at youtube.com/rsbnb. All right, so Extinction. Were you guys holding expectations high when you heard this quest was imminent?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. And
I was trying to keep them under control. I try to go to each quest neutral, but because of it is a finale and it's a Grandmaster, it's almost unavoidable to expect some things out of it, I guess.
Yeah. And there's lots of things that can be read into all the various aspects of it. One of the things we talked about on the sit-down with Jack and Shrike was that there's no skill requirements on this aside from the skill requirements for City of Sentistan, Desperate Measures, and Eye of Het Part 2. So as a result of that, you just have to have completed those 3 quests, plus they recommend Endgame, One of a Kind, and Sins of the Father. which will become apparent why we
Oh.
needed that in just a few moments.
Right, that's right. It was a recommended quest, mini quest. Okay, because I was going to say Sins of the Father requires a level 85, so...
Yeah, hence recommended on that. So, before we get too far into the overview of this quest, do you guys have any things, any ideas you want to get off the bat, any thoughts you want to get off the bat straight away here before we dive into the way this quest went? All right, I'll take that as
I was told to behave, so I'm going to let things go naturally.
Okay. What wouldn't you be behaving about?
No, you're just egging him on, Shane.
Yeah. Anyways.
He can demonstrate.
No, I don't know. Maybe we don't want that, but nonetheless, the quest starts at the entrance, the surface entrance to Sentistan. And when you go there, you'll discover that a good portion of the Zekar have actually started bleeding through to the surface. And remember, when we started this whole thing off, the idea was that we were going to keep the fighting away from the surface, which we have been able to do for a long time, but it's only starting to bleed through right now with that. So at this point, you have a conversation with Moya, who is outside the cathedral there. And isn't it interesting who we were joined with at this time outside the entrance to Sentistan, wasn't it?
Someone who seems to have caused quite some confusion, both in the run-up and continuing on, hey?
Yeah, we're talking about Hebe, of course.
Allegedly.
And I feel like that comment allegedly means we should just kind of jump to straight what happens next, because I don't think anybody was anticipating this character appearing at this point in time.
I mean, it was quite a common theory, actually, in the deeper lore community, which I was keeping an eye on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people staking their claim on Hebe is Adrastea. And to regular Joe RuneScape, the name Adrastea means just about nothing,
right.
But to the lore nerds, quite a bit more than that.
Yeah. So what happens is after that you head in towards the cathedral, but first you need to fight your way through, what was it, 10 or a dozen Zekar? Relatively simple fight, I felt, for the quest. And then...
Yeah, the hardest part was finding them all.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I'm just saying, like, that was the challenge.
Oh, okay. So
I
did
had
you
some
have...
problem myself.
Did you have accessibility? Or...
No.
Okay.
Not with that. We'll get to that,
okay.
A little later
on. But after that, you make your way to the cathedral, and once inside the cathedral, people are surprised because the big reveal happens that what we're actually seeing and who Hebe isn't actually Hebe. It's Adrastea, Saradomin's daughter.
Yeah, so before this, Adrastea was mentioned in, like, precisely one bit of content, being Sliskay's endgame, and a very specific playthrough of it, which, like, barely anyone got.
Right,
so...
if you raced Saradomin to the stone, you would have heard that piece of dialogue, but if you didn't, you would have had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're on good terms with Saradomin as well, you can ask him about her after the quest, but I don't think that was an option for me at the time.
I don't think that's actually the case, no. I think it only comes up if you have actually heard her mentioned in the quest beforehand, so...
Right, okay.
Yeah, it was a total
at any rate.
shock for a, filthy casual quest player like myself.
I mean, even I just said, who?
Yeah, very exclusive and specific character for some people if you haven't been digging.
And from the sounds of it, the character was brought in to introduce the character, and I think the general sentiment, though this hasn't been confirmed, is that the general direction we're heading with the storyline going forward is that she'll probably have some involvement in that. That's at least the sense I get after watching everything.
Yeah.
But she wanted to come and, in effect, get her hands dirty in what her dad was up to here in the quest and help out if she could at all. So that's her motivation for being there. Mm-hmm. And is there anything else you want to dive into about her character at this point, or should we continue on?
I mean, it's interesting to bring in a essentially completely new character in what is the finale to a quest line, but then it's also the opening of something new. And I think there's definitely a focus on like familial relationships. So pretty much everyone
there's a lot of these in that quest.
Mm-hmm. Everyone in our little internal squad who we go about the quest with is either a dad or a kid of someone else important.
Or a mum, in the case of one of the characters, which we'll get to, which I think is a really important way of looking at the quest. Mm-hmm. But anyways, as the quest continues on, it's decided that Moya will go try and tame the Nodon front, will start battling the forces back at the Croesus front, and Adrastea will tend to the wounded in the cathedral with that. And the next stage of the quest involves us facing simplified versions of those fronts. So, for example, on the Croesus front, we need to do some of the skilling that we do in the Croesus boss fight, though not in the actual boss fight area, just in the general Croesus front area. Avoid the Croesus mechanics when it throws its fungus and when it throws all the smoke clouds at you.
Did those do anything? Because I'm pretty sure I missed several times.
They lowered your stats like they do in the Croesus.
They sure did.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was just more forgiving, because I definitely missed a couple of them and still did not have my stats lowered.
I walked out of that fight with like minus 30 on most of my things.
Yeah, I was around minus 20 or so.
Maybe I'm just better than I thought, and you're bad, so...
I tanked it with restores, super restores, so bring it all. I mean, I tried to move, but I knew I was going to use super restore.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And then came the Glacier front, where we effectively had to shut down some of the portals to prevent the Glacier from attacking, and to turn the portal on, you need to light certain braziers in order to do that. And it's just a simple combination thing. I just mucked around with it for a little bit, and it was fine after that. You need to kill the generating glaciers.
Did you see the examine texts on the Pillars of Ice?
No, what were they?
So, on the full Pillar of Ice, the examine text was, "Where did it come from?"
Okay.
And when it was melting, I think when it was melting, it was, "Where did it go?"
Oh my god.
And I can't remember what it was exactly, but yes, it is. It is exactly that. Where did it come from? Where did it go?
And I don't suppose
it's Cotton Eye Joe.
I know, and I don't suppose one of them was Cotton Eye Joe, right?
I need to find the examine text for the last one, but it was some similar sounding lore reference, and just made me groan at the time.
That's what I get for not examining this part. I want to ask you, Tanis, how is
examine literally everything in the game?
No, how is this?
You get all their jokes in.
How is this for you, Tanis, accessibility wise?
Well, I did die a few times here, and ironically, like, I didn't have any problem with the Glakers or the order of the Brazers, but what killed me was the attacks in that area while I was trying to light the Brazers. And
like the beams?
Yeah, like it got me a bunch. Yeah.
All right.
But and that's where the first, kind of rash of deaths came from, but overall not bad. It was just.
Did you also know that you were able to use your battlefield abilities at this part of the fight?
Ooh.
Oh, no.
So if you had the next one set, that would have been a huge heal.
Oh.
Or what?
The battlefield abilities on the extra action button that are present in the front. in the fronts. There's one for each of the big generals, like
I found it.
Nex, Hellweir, etc. Okay, what was it?
So, where did this come from? The glacier snow.
Oh, that's hilarious. All right. So after the simplified versions of the front, you head on over to the Nodon front, which is slightly different than what you had to do on the Croesus and Glacier front, because you just effectively had to man the siege engines here, and you just basically click on each of the siege engines down below, and they'll immediately die for the 30,000 damage. Fun little game of whack-a-mole. Carapac will appear in reset time, and I felt like it was 3 or 4 times that he did that before he just stopped doing that. So just play a little bit of whack-a-mole with that.
Even Needleman can only rewind so many times.
Yeah, he probably just got bored.
Thank God for mouse over text with that one.
Oh, okay, so that's how you did that.
Yeah.
Okay. But after this,
it was a bit of a
go ahead.
Camera angle. I got to say, sorry, I just remembered some of the cannons were hard to see. So
yeah. One of them was behind a building or something to that effect.
Yeah. Yep.
It's all right.
But after this, we head back to the cathedral, and what do we hear? We hear boom, 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 boom. It appears that Zuck is on the way. And we know what that would mean, effectively, for the fight, is that, well, the cathedral doors are going to get broken down. And I think this is where we have the first big kind of gasp moment of the quest. What were you guys thinking at this point, right before Zuck was about to enter the cathedral?
It's big boy time.
Okay.
Let's fight this early in the quest, man.
I thought we were going to have to fight him.
No.
Oh,
that would be funny, though.
It would have been.
I can imagine a simplified version of some of his attacks.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. And as a result of this, Saradomin and Armadil make the decision that they want to destroy the eggs.
Turn your back, Seren. You don't have to watch this.
Yeah. And she has this brief moment where she almost considers it, but then she teleports the eggs away.
Because she's baby crazy.
And then she goes away with them. So
Did anyone think, if you could have done this all along, then why are we here?
It's one of life's great mysteries, isn't it?
Yeah, like if they could have just destroyed them at any point.
Yeah, so
then
what was the plan to destroy them? Because I remember this sort of got brought up in the God dialogue way back. They were discussing something about turning the eggs' power back on themselves, but it wasn't really. They didn't really go anywhere with that. If anyone recalls?
I think it was just that Seren didn't want them destroyed.
Okay.
That and it was the only thing really stopping the Elder Gods from just coming in directly, because we have seen cutscenes of Jazz with full-on laser eyes blamming everywhere. The reason she's probably not doing that here is because there are eggs about, and she's not in the shattering mood.
That's the thing. The eggs always existed as leverage to not be killed instantly. But yeah, I'm curious what the plan was in that moment with that Saradomin and Armadil were going to attempt.
I don't know. That might have been an interesting question to ask earlier in the week on that, because wouldn't there have also been a possibility that breaking up that much energy could have had negative effects on both Saradomin and Armadil?
Oof.
I mean, I think they were in it for the long haul no matter what at that point.
Yeah.
I think it was also said there was only so much they could take, and as Anadra couldn't even try because he's brand new gold and would explode like a balloon.
Yeah, I think they're like, world event winners, we out. Boom. Right? Saradomin, Armadil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
In any
that
case,
sounds exactly like Armadil.
In any case, we need to mount a search for the eggs. with this, and the idea behind our search is that Moya makes the decision that she'll search all around Gielinor, which I mean is fine. And Hannibus, and this is where the quest, I think, starts to get interesting. Hannibus wants us to talk to Vasindithus back on Anachronia, as he may have a way to track the eggs. And when we visit him on Anachronia in the lab, what winds up happening there after a little bit of discussion is that he modifies the measure, one of course, the weakest Elder artifacts that we possess, in order to effectively measure a planet's runescape, as he says. This is what Charos called the animosphere of a world. So it's kind of just how the anima interacts on that world, I guess, is my understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
get a nice little flavor sample.
Yeah, and with the eggs being there, it's able to. That is influenced by the eggs being on the planet of the question. And previously, his preferred method of making this kind of device would have been to use the locator, of course, which is Saradomin's crown, but we know that Zaros got away with that to Erebus. So using the locator is not possible. So he's effectively able to modify the measure in order to do that. But I don't think we've ever heard it called RuneScape before, have we?
I feel like we have, but only about once as opposed to about 5 times in this quest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And once the modified measure is complete, we take measurements of Gielinor, and we find out that our RuneScape is normal, so the eggs are somewhere else. So with this, we need to start to use the world gate of in west of Ardoyan in order to actually be able to figure out where the eggs are located.
Arendar, I think.
Sorry, what was that?
Arendar is where it's located.
Okay, right. That's
what I would call it.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it, because that's called the Arendar Pass. That area that you just go south of that to get to Prif, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But the choices we have to search are Infernus, Hallow, Terragard, and Tardiad. Infernus, of course, is the home of the demons. Hallow is the Icene homeworld where Saradomin and Adrastea would have come from. And Terragard is, of course, the human homeworld. And Tardiad is the homeworld of the elves. And if the player selects any of the other options, the light and shadow voices pipe up for the first time in the quest. Which is going to be a question that we're going to talk about at some point in the future, just a little bit after here. So, I just want to take notes here. Is there anybody have any comments on the light and shadow voices at this time, or you guys want to save that for after?
I mean, there's an interesting comment about Terragard where Light Voice mentions, unless you thought to pass the eggs into the schism. Seems unlikely, don't you think?
Right. I was wondering, what is that?
Now, that is something that's mostly been hinted at so far. There's all sorts of weird magic science going on that planet, and they've got this massive thing that's just called the Schism, and there's some nice art of it floating around, like maybe if you go on the Terragard page on the RuneScape wiki, but that is about all we know. But clearly it's something you could apparently pass the eggs into. I swear it's also something to do with Robert the Strong, if I recall.
Didn't he jump into it?
Yes, and ended up on Gielinor.
And oh yeah, right. I remember Zerdones was talking a bit about that last week on the show. Okay. Well, obviously the correct answer is Tardiad, because Seren, elves, so first place we should check is her original homeworld, of course, right?
Yep.
But on Tardiad, there's no evidence to suggest that Seren or the eggs are there. And Angoff, one of the crystal shapeshifters, appears and says that no, Seren hasn't been back. She's only been back once since she reformed herself, so she hasn't been back to Tardiad. So we know that she's not there. Also on Tardiad, when we're there, Karapak appears, and he's looking for a fight, obviously, because he wants the eggs and effectively wants to, I think, at this point, kill us, because he is, of course, bound still by Jazz at this point. But I don't think there's anything too important to draw from our conversation with Karapak on Tardiad. Most of that, the interesting Karapak stuff, happens later in the quest, I think. So.
Is it time to sort of touch upon the fact the more personal story going on between Hannibus, Karapak, and Senderfas? Because this has been...
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that a bit
few
here.
Times as we visit different worlds.
Yeah, it becomes apparent immediately when you visit them for the first time in this quest that Hannibus and Senderfas have had a little bit of an argument. There's actually a section where Senderfas is working away on science stuff and you have to awkwardly keep restarting the conversation about 5 times because they are both absolutely silent on each other. But yeah, it's, Hannibus, our ultimate dad, is trying to get Visendathas to reconcile with his dad, but when that dad is Karapak, you're gonna have a bit of a hard time.
And that will make its way to become a recurring theme throughout this entire quest.
Mm-hmm.
And
which part, Shane? I was going to say the daddy issues.
Those two in their argument, or their the rift between them.
There's a rift between
between most of the characters in this quest, which is once again, I think, one of the central themes that will become very, very apparent.
Family,
as we discuss here. Yeah, family, exactly. On that, the next world. Go ahead.
Only the best Thanksgiving dinners in Gillinor.
Oh god, that would be something to watch, wouldn't it? Oh boy. All right. The next world we suggest, and this recommendation actually comes from Adrastia, is that we go to Nargan, which is Guthix's homeworld, due to the past relationship that Seren and Guthix had. I didn't anticipate going into this that we'd be going to Nargan. Did you guys? I mean, obviously we saw that in the trailer a bit, but we didn't know what that was going to be for.
I think it's also been pointed out that this is the first time we actually go to Narragain as opposed to a memory of it.
Okay.
Oh, is it really?
Mm.
Oh,
wow. But, we learn that, of course, there's nothing here in terms of the eggs, but the storyline with Karapak does progress a little bit in that the discussion that happens suggests that Karapak would gladly fight Jazz, but can't, of course, because he's bound. And I think it's at this point that he says that he has moments where he's able to exercise his own will, but shortly thereafter, the curse that Jazz has put on him still makes it so that he has no free will, and he still ends up performing duties as she wants.
Well, at what point can we talk about how I was asked what world she went to, and I said she's in the Elder Halls on Frenesque?
Let's talk about Kethsy first. Let's talk about Kethsy first. Because there's also Kethsy as the next world we need to visit, because this is where we initially found the Stone of Jazz all those quests ago, and Karapak is there waiting for us. And this is a discussion we have with him. You can either choose to reason or chastise him. I chose to reason with him, and as with most things in this quest, and this is a general theme I think that's always going to come up, is that you wind up in the same spot in this quest just to, in effect, prevent us from creating 2 branching storylines. Did you guys choose chastise or reason?
I'll have a reason.
Chastise.
Okay.
I mean, Karapak's angry enough that you just gotta sort of anger back at him, eh?
All right.
Yeah.
That's his language.
Which one did you go with, Alaska?
I chose reason, but we were playing as a group and I heard chastise read out, and I got to say I wouldn't have had a problem choosing that one either, because the way it is presented is almost like you're urging or challenging him to fight back, and that feels almost a little bit appropriate for Karapak at least. So, yeah.
All right. And at the end, we learn that if he had an opportunity to kill Jazz, he absolutely would, because if it was a choice between killing us and Jazz, he would choose Jazz with no questions asked. And it's also at this point that, in his own words, he can dig his heels in, and that gives us more time to prevent the elders from finding the eggs and hatching them. And the reason that he's able to do this is, of course, because he's still in control of the needle. So digging his heels in is a whole timey-wimey kind of control mechanism. So, and it's this point that we can talk about finding the next world that we go to, which is, of course, Frenesque, as you mentioned, Earth. So you were the one in your quest playthrough that suggested Frenesque?
I mean, I said, where did she go? I said, she went back to the Elder Halls on Frenesque.
Was that an option for your character to say, or did you just say that?
No, that was me, the person, saying, I know where she is.
Okay. And the reason she was on Frenesque is because she wanted to take the eggs to an area where that they had all been before, or rather, all the different eggs had been before. So, and
could be masked, and also they wouldn't really have to do a new environment just for them.
Yeah. But, let's be real. Frenesque actually looks really good, I think.
No, it does.
Sure does.
And they were there before.
Yeah, all the eggs were there before. That's the big
Seren's
reason.
home, so I guess that's kind of like maybe a safe place for her to retreat to, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
why didn't we just say that from the very beginning?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right.
I was thinking that initially as well, honestly. But no, we gotta have a bit of a run around.
Did we learn?
I think.
Go ahead, Alaska.
I was going to say, well, if we hadn't, we kind of needed that opportunity to get the Karapak thing going, and
true.
Maybe if we skipped straight to Frenesque, that wouldn't have really been as authentically presented.
Well, sure.
Well, it also set up a dynamic between what she saw its family and how the elves felt that she abandoned them on Tardiad, because that gets brought up again. And then you see what she's going through, or what lengths she will go to for quote unquote her kind.
Yeah. I mean, it was important that we went to all of those worlds, but I felt that there could have been a better reason when Frenesque felt to me to be the obvious place that she went.
I do agree. It's still a bit of an interesting runaround. So maybe the reasons for going to those planets could have been a little bit more convincing.
Right, because at this point it's just Karapak story building.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But we obviously wind up at the cradle, and then we just head down the rock face to the Elder Halls, find Seren there with the eggs, and she said that she teleported them because she does not want her family to face extinction. And hence the name of the quest. And I asked this question last week in our speculatory segment. Are we talking about extinction of the races on Gielinor? Are we talking about the extinction of the elder gods? What are we talking about? And I mean, we can approach that from multiple angles, but this is, I think from this point on, I viewed the lens as extinction is referring to the extinction of the elders. That's the way I viewed it at this point, because we need to be 100% honest and realize that we weren't going to lose our world in this quest. I mean, we could at some point, but I don't think we're ready to jump down that rabbit hole just yet.
RuneScape's sticking about for a time.
Yeah. So, but with her family not wanting to face extinction, we have to talk to her and effectively figure out a way forward. But it's when we're having this conversation with her, we hear a rumbling noise up above. And when we go back up to the cradle to check what that rumbling noise was, we discover that there's something up there called the Shadow Breach.
It's the Fun Orb logo.
Oh, yeah. I never thought of that. But you're right.
It is, isn't it?
You're right.
That's where Fun Orb went that dark day in 2018.
Aww.
Oh, wow. I didn't think we'd go down
Pour
that
one
path.
out for a real one.
Damn. But yeah, Zaros just got really into orb defense.
Oh, that's hilarious. But it turns out that there's 2 shadow breaches. The first one we encountered last year in Battle of the Monolith, which was closed. But this one is
By
more
the Codex.
closed by the Codex, right? But this one's more wild and was able to actually move around into different places. And this one goes somewhere dangerous into Erebus, where there happens to be a creature called the Shadow Leviathan, and we learned that's why Zaros didn't use this Shadow Breach when he was looking to get into Erebus, because if he did that, he would have wound up, facing a horrible fate.
Weenie.
We also learned that the Shadow Breach is what Zaros used when he spent his time on Frenesgate to build his power.
I gotta say, I'm not entirely sure whether it's terrifying or hilarious that there's just this open bit of shadow that can seemingly just walk around as it chooses.
The whole universe.
Go for a little stroll.
And I think
What's causing it to move?
Well, I think the sense is that we can kind of infer that Zaros probably nudged it.
That's what I was getting to, but
Yeah. That was the sense I got.
And that was kind of inferred on our Jack and Shrike podcast as well. Is that Zaros
he
probably
knew
had
something
a role
was going to happen.
Yeah.
He's not touching that one.
It was at this point in when I was playing it that I thought Zaros was going to appear in this quest, and he didn't.
Same.
Were you guys expecting him?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to be the literal Deus Ex Machina that saved it.
Yeah.
I guess so, because Erebus, and but
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if they would actually start pulling in that branch of story as well, because I think they wanted to kind of keep a close scope on Elder Gods and keep Erebus for later. I think that was talked about previously, so I was a bit skeptical, but yeah.
Which is of course going to annoy the Zaros fans in the community, because they wanted to see just where exactly he went to and what the hell is happening with Tony and all that other stuff in Erebus. But that's a story for a different day after the next storyline. We did get confirmation of that this week as well with that. But this Shadow Breach is for us to use, and it's our way out of the predicament that we're in. So Carapax senses that Jazz is on the way and is already using the needle to slow time, delaying her arrival. And he suggests that we actually head into Erebus through the Shadow Breach to find something to kill Jazz. And
Sounds perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, and you're wondering, as World Guardian, how much of this are you going to be able to withstand?
All of it.
But you're only able to stay inside Erebus for an actual short amount of time. Because
depends on how many times you fail.
Right. And I want to actually talk about how this works, because this is the second puzzle of the quest. So you go into Erebus and you need to increase your attunement eventually to 100% to Erebus by finding shadow anima rocks and motes of shadow anima. And if you stay until the end, when your timer ticks down, it can effectively be thought of in the lore sense that it's Erebus that's killing you, and Carapax is bringing you back to life with the needle when the time ticks down. That's the lore thing that was happening with that, and we asked Jack about this on the show.
Actually dying?
Yeah.
That's what we learned.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it.
And he's bringing you back, and he said what he would have wanted to do, had the budget would have allowed for it, would have been to have the Shadow Leviathan kill you, but they didn't have the model resources or art resources to depict that each time you would hit down to 0. So instead, the implied lore mechanism they wanted to do is just have it be that Erebus kills you after that amount of time. And
Can you imagine just having all these different instances of getting killed by the Leviathan, kind of like Doctor Strange and Dormammu? That would be...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
But yeah.
through the various degrees of attunement rather, that you get in Erebus. The first one will let you move faster at 20%. You'll be able to stay 15 seconds longer at 40%, run at 60%, stay another 15 seconds at 80%, and at 100% you'll be able to use a very specific idol, which is very important to our quest. I spent about an hour in Erebus getting through this. How long did it take you guys? Tanis, you'll answer last.
I think, well, Alaska and I both did it on stream together. I think we took about half an hour with this.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, fair enough. Tanis?
Probably it's probably close to 4 hours. And there was probably well over 100 attempts.
Oof.
Whatever that timer was, it was maxed. Completely maxed.
And it would add additional time beyond 20 attempts if you allowed it to.
Yeah, but it maxed out at some point.
Yeah, I want to talk about the accessibility things. What was the hardest accessibility-wise here?
Well, there was a couple things. One, just moving around was difficult. I had to basically minimize my magnifier to be able to click where I needed to click quick enough to make it fast enough to try to get through. But of course, with that comes the drawback of not being able to see the little globes very well.
Yeah, we should say that there were little teleport anima devices and abyssal anima devices that let you activate portals and then move the big boulders telekinetic-wise. Should mention that as well.
Yeah, and there was some other kind too that was like, it was a really hard color to see. I think it was like orange or I'm not sure. But that was all, fairly difficult. But the part that gave me the most trouble was moving the boulders.
Right, and that was just a field of view thing, right?
A lot of field of view, but I mean, it's a timing thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Timers are just, they're not a good, not a good accessibility fit. So that killed me more than anything else. Eventually I started running. Not entirely sure how that happened. I think
that's
it was
60% attunement.
Yeah.
60% attunement, yeah.
That helped, but I mean, you know how you would if you would fail, you would have to do a whole nother run just to set up for the next run that was going to be your real run. And that happened, just a lot.
Yeah. And the interesting part about this is that when you reach the checkpoint after you moved everything onto that lodestone and getting to that lodestone, that acted as a checkpoint, because when you went through there was a relic. I'm forgetting its exact name that you were able to pick up, but you were able to pick up that relic, and then
of the Titans, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's the one.
Then it would effectively reset everything on that first map, so you just effectively be able to run through the one teleport and then run to the lodestone and call it a day, get through, and progress forward with that. And that's where you get the last 40% or so attunement, moving through all the various portals and such in there, and you charge yourself up, and then once you get to 100%, you're fully attuned, you're able to harvest from this wisp, and you effectively get this memory that you need to use to activate the idol, or rather, you enable the idol by giving this memory to this boiling rift. And it was quite interesting, I think, because what were you guys expecting when you pressed that button to activate that idol?
Honestly, no idea.
Okay.
I was expecting that.
Activate the Soul Kaiser, that is.
Yeah. You know, the thing that Zaros was going to, or was suspected he was going to find, that Zoltak or whatever.
Yeah.
Zoltak?
Yeah, I thought that was going to come through.
I think we're so done with Zautak at this point.
I mean, I said Zautak to you
I know.
about 100 times.
And I thought we were done. But you give the memory to the Boiling Rift, you go through another portal that opens it up, and then you find the idol of the Leviathan, and then activating it, you touch the strange idol. The surface is unexpectedly soft and wet and cold.
Eesh.
Yeah, that was that was quite the description.
And then
The hell are we touching here?
And then you press that, and then that calls in the Shadow Leviathan. And you're returned to the halls, and the Shadow Leviathan comes through the breach and gets to do what it wants to do to Jazz. Karapak joins in, and the two of them together overpower Jazz, and then they're both sucked in to the breach. And with that, of course, that means that with that, Jazz is dead.
Yay!
Effectively, anyway. Who the hell knows what's going on back there, but I imagine it's pretty clear that she's taken out of the story, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a bit ambiguous what the actual ending would be, but
So you guys think that
removed
she's
from
not
the
actually
story.
dead?
Don't know.
It's weird, like, multi-dimensional stuff going on. Who the hell knows, really?
I think she is neutralized.
Good word.
All right, fair enough. It's at this point, after this happens, we know that Jazz was overwhelmed. The needle winds up being shattered. Karapak is dead as well, and following from this, we're greeted by one of Karapak's echoes, which is a few moments time displaced, and we're able to have a conversation with that echo. And this is the final time where Hannibus tries to get Karapak to reconcile with Vasindathas. And it doesn't happen. Were you guys thinking it would happen?
No.
Nope.
Okay. I was hopeful that it would, but...
I did, and then
Yeah,
I was like,
hopeful,
whoa,
but...
these daddy issues run deep.
Yeah, I think part of me was hopeful, but I knew deep down that if it happened, it would feel inauthentic, just given how much history and context is there. It's not something that can just happen on the spot, really.
Some dads are bad dads.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was, I guess we kind of met in the middle where both of them sort of accepted that they don't need to be.
Faults.
Yeah.
Okay.
As much closure as we're getting there.
Pretty much, yeah.
And following from this, there's the interesting cutscene that happens with Seren, where she says that our survival depends on your deaths. And that's once again talking about extinction on this, and it kind of pivots into the whole conversation that happens in the Elder Halls with Seren after the Shadow Leviathan episode, and then the Echo of Karapak. In the Elder Halls, we talk to Seren again. We need to figure out just what we want to do with the eggs at that point. The choices are to hatch them, kill them, or siphon them further. What did you guys choose?
Kill.
Tannis kill.
There was a third option, right?
Yeah, I said hatch,
Ramble.
kill, or siphon.
There was nothing you could do that wasn't just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
Gonna make an omelet, gotta scramble some eggs.
Oh God.
Who's up for the biggest omelette of Gillenor's ever seen?
And you know what was interesting? Was that Chaos Elemental who said that they had an omelet that day?
Yes.
that they were doing the quest?
Yeah.
Appropriate.
One of the
Preparation.
other folks who produced our speculation bit last year.
Oh.
I mean, but how perfect to have an omelet for dinner on the day you're doing Extinction, right?
Planned.
But
eat an omelette, then make an omelette, hey.
Hatching them would involve them not surviving, since the anima on Freneske would provide them no strength. So she doesn't want to let them hatch. Seren also just wouldn't let them be destroyed because they're her family, and that's once again the whole family theme coming up. And she says they
Fast and Furious movie.
Well,
Vin Diesel comes on in.
Well, there we go again.
Family.
The other idea that we're talking about movies, the movie reference that always comes up in these quests, that's been a consistent thing, at least since As and Andra's quest, is that they've all been very graphical and very movie-like, which I'm sure we'll get to when we review our agency at the end.
Shane, how much? Do you know anything about the Fast and Furious movies?
No, I just know that they're
They are not the pinnacle of cinema.
Oh, I was going to.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Well, in reality, there's very few movies in this day and age that actually please me.
Well, I believe that.
Okay.
Gone with the Wind. Has Shane been happy?
I've been happy with a movie in this decade.
In this decade.
Do tell.
Wide window.
The last movie that I was really happy with was
Star Trek.
The last movie I was really happy with was Dunkirk.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. This is not movie update. And the eggs can't be drained further because they've already been siphoned enough, and all that's really needed at this point is for the eggs to hatch. And they need the elders to do that. And there's actually a really interesting discussion that we had, and I'll say again, go back and listen to this episode if you haven't, the episode with Mod Jack and Mod Shrike, where Shrike said that when this section of dialogue was being designed, she designed it in such a way that the idea behind this was, let's look at how the biggest example of motherhood could be used and exemplified in this quest in terms of, just absolutely refusing to let anything bad happen to these eggs, as a good mom would.
And then twist it.
Yeah. So I found that to be a really interesting revelation on that from Seren's side. And you guys might not like this. You guys might not like this. I actually grew to like Seren's character more in this quest.
Really?
Yes.
Shocker.
I can see that personally.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into more of that about at the end of this. So about why that is. But Hannibus then makes the mistake of suggesting to take the eggs to Aya. Yeah, because we know Aya has effectively too much anima. It not the perfect world like Eleanor, and to the point it prevented the Iluzhanka from being able to reproduce, and that was the problem with their society. And Seren actually asks more questions about Aya and gets interested because of that. And it's at this point she probably hatches the idea in her head.
Die.
Yeah.
Cue the trombone.
Yeah. Everybody on Aya wants to die. So,
well,
do you guys have any comments on Aya's anima? Because I wrote that down as a point because I found that to be really interesting in that it was too perfect in a way that it didn't foster life.
Yeah, I was waiting for this to come back into the story after the end of Effigy Incubator's.
It's sterile. Yeah, that was.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, so sterile was the exact word, and sterilized by someone, and it kind of makes me wonder if this wasn't the plan all along in some way or another.
Oh, and
by someone.
That is an important point. It was done by someone. I think it was implied that it was manufactured rather than just a natural occurrence, right?
Well, wouldn't the elders have made Aya as well?
Yeah, but then someone comes along and does something else to it. And you can't help but wonder if this was the reason why. Not sure. Could have been, I think the most obvious candidate is the Dragonkin, because there are mentions of the Dragonkin having visited the Ilyanka's world in the distant past.
Yeah, because didn't they fight a bit at some point?
Yes.
Didn't they fight a bit at some point? The Illajankan and the Dragonkin?
I don't think so, but there was something in the Effigy Incubator lore about legends of ancient demons and then recognizing Vicendathas as one of them when he shows up.
Fair enough.
What were you saying, Alaska?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, this, I don't know if it was ever really explicitly stated, the rules for the Great Revision, or because what this is saying is, I might be skipping a bit far ahead, but so the Elder Gods, the eggs need to hatch on the perfect world to be capable of resetting the universe. If they don't hatch on the perfect world, then they lose that capability.
Correct.
I don't know if that was ever stated anywhere previously until now. So like this sort of this loophole of hatching them elsewhere besides the perfect world means that the Great Revision doesn't happen as expected.
Yeah.
Is there any other previous
I don't know if
mention
I've
of
heard
this
that anywhere else before, so you might be right.
Not that it
I
kind
think
of
it was.
fits, but I never heard of it previously. That's all I'm saying.
They talked about them hatching on the perfect world and then absorbing every part of it, but I don't think they talked about what would happen if they didn't.
Yeah,
So I don't think anyone was thinking about taking the eggs of the Elder Gods to a completely different world. Like, that did not seem to be in the cards.
Didn't somebody suggest that, though, in, like, Desperate Times or Desperate Measures?
I think
there was definitely...
Right.
There was discussion of moving them somewhere else, but that's really just sort of moving the problem somewhere else.
Problems and push them somewhere else.
Oh,
God. I should have just left them on Freneske, you know? Like,
yeah, well, Seren...
I mean, why didn't we do this earlier is, I guess, the question everyone keeps asking. And I mean,
because Seren teleports the eggs to Aya after learning about that.
The problem is doing this in a way that Seren would agree with. Because if you hatch them in Freneske, I imagine they get malnourished and die potentially, and then Seren's mad at you. And if you do this on any dead world, there's nothing to do. And if you do this on any living world, you're wiping people out. So there's really no situation that doesn't end with people dying.
Yeah, so I think people are saying, why didn't we just take the eggs somewhere and do this earlier? But, you just have to be okay with killing off a planet. And you can't, like you said, you can't choose a dead planet because the point is they absorb anima, and anima comes from life.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Sentient beings.
So, but after that, we head on over to Aya after Seren, not Saradomin. Saradomin is still in the cathedral, by the way, if anybody was aware of that. But
doing the absolute smackdown on Zook.
Yeah. But after this on Aya, we have some things to handle. But before we do that, I want to thank our Patreon supporters for this episode, because I realized that we've been deep in quest discussion for a long time now, which is absolutely fine. But I want to thank some patrons right now. This week, I'd like to thank in particular Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Big Huge Rat, Bryflex, Christian S., Chunk the Monk, Cook Me Plonks, Diana, Duramax, Elomady, Flaza Man, Free Milk, Gila Fleur, Jacob R., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jeebus, Jesse W., Jim M., Ling01, Nate the Great, Nick G., Patty the Architect, Parnassius, Renhawk, Ricky A., Rippeth, Ryan P., Samuel FL, Skiotan, Scott DS, Seth W., Stubbeef, Tabby, Tanner JW, Taylor B., The Naked Captain, The Lion, Tim A., Tom V., and Zant. We thank you all so much for your support, and if you want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that. Just head on over to patreon.com/RSBANDB. There you can gain access to the entire back catalog of monthly bits that we have. We have monthly bits going all the way back. And Tanis, we just had our monthly bit a couple weeks ago on the Comp Cape rework. That was a really good and lively discussion because we had so many different sides on that topic.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty fun. I always enjoy the monthly bits. Those are always, a lot of fun to produce and record.
Yeah, and you know who was also really interested in the Compcape monthly bit was actually Mod Jack. When we did our Patreon spot for that episode, he said, "Oh, are we going to do a 6-hour Compcape episode at some point in the future?" So he's still very interested in talking about comp, and that was in our full edition of that episode. But also, you can get full access to our Discord server with a special VIP rank and a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, in addition to high-quality stereo versions of the show. And if you want to give the ultimate gift, our insider tier for $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week and exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. So thank you again, everybody, for making what we do here possible at RSBANDB. Thanks so much, everyone. All right, so let's pick up Extinction where we were at. I was talking about how I am coming around to Seren's side of the character, but right now we're sitting on Aya, and we need to begin an evacuation effort. The Elder, I have no idea how to pronounce this Elder's name. Does somebody else want to take a stab at it? Elder Chahua?
What was it?
Chahua?
Chahua, I was saying. Chahua.
Okay. He doesn't want to because he believes the end times are near. But we also talked to the Past Keeper, the Craftmaster, the Pond Keeper, and the Plant Keeper, and they all want you to help them gather symbols of Aya that are related to their work before they leave, even though the Past Keeper won't leave, but he wants you to take his necklace or amulet with him with that. So it's just run around a bit of Aya, do a little bit of skilling and all the different skilling nodes there, gather a bucket of fish, for example, at the Pond Keeper to make sure that the fish stay alive. I just found that is so fitting that there's this Illusionkin who is just sitting here, but the world is about to end, and the thing he wants to survive and carry on is his fish. I like that.
He was my favorite.
Yeah.
He was adorable.
Yeah, I agree. But the evacuation... Go ahead.
You can tell this is a civilization who's basically spent their entire lives preparing for death because they're pretty chill about it on the whole.
Yeah. And you have to wonder, maybe for some reasons, that's why Seren actually chose this world.
Yeah, you can sort of see the wheels turning in her head.
Like, oh, really? Tell me more.
They're fine with dying, you say.
Die?
I'll just hasten it up
that can be
a bit.
arranged.
Yeah. After the village is evacuated, the group begins evacuating, but before we're actually done with the evacuation, believe it or not, Seren actually starts to call the elders.
Asshole.
Which it's not time yet. We weren't done evacuating.
The thing is, she'd called the elders and said they'll have to travel through space. You'll have time. Start the evacuation now. So she gave us limited time, at least. It's not like she interrupted an evacuation in progress.
And we don't exactly know how far away Aya is from Gielinor and how fast the elders can travel, right?
Just do a bit of mental maths, figure out speed of Elder God, Unladen Swallow or whatever.
It's wonderful. So, following from this, it's revealed that we can actually delay the process because Vicindathas, before we left, Fredescape picked up some shards of the needle and says that we can actually delay this process by placing down these shards at 4 key locations. And with that will delay the process, but after we place 2 of the shards, Seren will actually start fighting us, or at least certain manifestations that she calls up will. Were you guys expecting a boss fight at this point?
I wanted to kill her.
You can't do that.
I wanted to cut a bitch.
You can't do that.
There'd been an audio preview out previewing the boss fight theme that plays in this track, and there are all these voice lines from Seren that people were saying, this sounds like a boss fight called out. Seren sus?
Yeah.
That's exactly what they were.
So this is the music track family that unlocks. You guys want to talk about the boss fight first, or you want to talk about the music track? Because I know we wanted to talk about both. You want the music track or the boss fight?
I feel like we need to talk about the music first, because the boss fight sort of really leads into the end, and
all right,
don't really want to divert from that, right?
Fair enough, we can do that. So this is a music track family, and it plays during the boss fight. So what's your guys' favorite part about this track?
Oh, it's...
back into it. Okay. Is it Elder Daughter or is it a different...
I think it's Elven Mother is the original, I think.
And it came back in Elder Daughter and... Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
It's been recurring a bit. It's a familiar friend, this track.
Play the other one I had you do, Shane.
Sing for Aya?
Yeah.
All right. You can pull that one up. When did this one trigger?
This was the moment we touched down on Aya. This is just the area theme.
Okay, here we go. So is this RuneScape's most groundbreaking music track?
I just liked the parallels. I really like the voices.
Yeah, the vocals in this one.
The vocals.
Like, you're not expecting it for the first minute or so, and then we have the female, and then it changes afterwards, right? So.
And then the boss fight music is same vibes, but stressful.
Yeah, obviously a higher tempo with that.
With the voices as the focal point or whatever you want to call it.
And, you know, at this point, we got to call it out again. Throughout this entire Elder God Wars experience, the environment and the soundtracks have just been completely out of the park for everything that they built for this, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, well done to the audio teams for these tracks especially, but also the environment teams for Aya as well, because we didn't really talk about that, but it's a really nice environment.
It is.
I remember saying at a point, Aya can't die. They've just built this whole place. Like, surely they're not just going to throw it in the trash.
I would go there on vacation.
Genuinely though, Alaska, that is part of the reason why the eventual fate came as a bit of a shock and surprise.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Also,
go ahead.
Speaking of the environment, we cannot decline to mention the best character in the whole of RuneScape.
Who?
The Ilyanka chilling in the hot tub.
Okay, all right.
Such a lovely little background detail.
And there's actually some talk about maybe that might make its way into the actual dream sequence with the reward at some point as well.
Actually, there was something on the podcast with Shrike and Jack. They were talking about how they were trying to get this particular Ilyanka named with a sort of reference, but weren't quite able to sneak it past Raven. And I did actually follow up in the official RuneScape Discord, and the name of this incredible character is Stipes, as in Michael Stipe, as in the band REM, as in the song "It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine."
And he's just sitting there in the hot tub.
And he feels fine.
And that's what they do on Aya, I guess. That's
living
perfect.
the life,
That's
dying
perfect.
the death.
That's perfect. All right, let's talk about the boss fight now. Because this boss fight is not a safe fight. We need to underscore that. If you die, your gravestone will wind up outside the world gate. So, when you start this fight, you're killing and fighting against the light and dark lords. What will happen is that you deal damage to 1,008 life points at a time to them by killing the various shadows that pop up. And you only need to kill one of either the light or the dark lord to progress on to the next part of this fight. And after you kill them, you'll have to direct the big swirling, let's just call them collections of shadow energy towards the remaining one. And it took me a while to realize that you were actually able to direct those shadows at that point, because you just direct the shadow to the remaining light or dark lord to finish off this fight. So this is part one of the fight. How difficult was this for you, Tanis?
This actually wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I cruised right on through this one.
All right, good. But after you kill the light and dark lord, you can place your third shard down, and in phase 2, you need to deal with a vestige of Ma and a Ma wisp. And these vestiges of Ma that appear with them, whenever you kill the Muspa, it will make the Ma wisp vulnerable to damage, and you need to effectively damage it in such a quick way that you have a damage window, because I think this thing has somewhere around 60,000 life points, if I remember correctly, with that, the Ma wisp. It does.
Yeah.
So you basically just rinse and repeat with that, keep killing the Muspa to create the period of vulnerability, then attack the wisp when it's vulnerable. I didn't find this one too difficult at all.
Sorry, I was just going to say there's a cool animation during this bit where she's facing the vestige of Ma, and it looks like she's puppeting it, and you can see the vestige of Ma is like kind of dangling its arms and being puppeted, and I just thought that was a really cool detail.
Oh, interesting. Well. Okay.
It looks pretty.
I didn't know that it mirrored what she was doing.
I don't know if it exactly mirrors it, but it's just implied that, you see her, she's got her arms kind of rigid and twitching them a bit, and she's facing the vestige, so it's pretty cool the way that was staged.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the final phase of the fight, it involves Seren summoning waves of herself that launch fire at you. These will do 2,700 damage per hit. You really can't mitigate these aside from Barricade, though things like Tank Armor and Animate Dead will help for this. And, you know, the thing I found for this...
That's what I did.
I took less damage when I put a shield on, so I assume increasing your armor value would do that.
It's still annoying.
Okay.
But okay, maybe that does help.
Yeah. But movement is key to avoiding that, and I found that for the waves of fire, if you just keep moving back and forth to the point where you're moving quick enough that it's not going to effectively fire off in your direction, you're able to avoid those. Then, at some point in the fight, the eggs will begin moving around and emanating energy. You need to avoid these as well. And they seem to have a bit of a pattern, but I was never actually able to figure out which one it was. But in general, just try and maximize the distance between yourself and the eggs, and you'll be fine on that. But where it gets really difficult is that you have the final part of this phase where both mechanics need to be dealt with, both the waves of fire plus the eggs, and then there will be also aspects of Seren that will appear and attack with magic as well. So there's a lot of things that are going to be going off for this one, and I think this took me about 3 tries. I'm going to be 100% honest with that. This took me about 3 tries to nail down and get done correctly on this.
Yeah.
And the answer for me on this one was lots of food, an adrenaline potion, and just working up to Barricade and then getting that, 12 or so seconds worth of Barricade off of having damage immunity for it. Because you don't actually need to do a certain amount of damage in this final part of this fight. You just need to survive for about 2 minutes or so. Which,
Long 2 minutes.
Yeah, it is. It is. It can be. So.
It's annoying as hell.
Yeah. But following from that, it's time to go. And literally, we mean it's time to go with that, because after this fight ends, we see that the world starts to shake, and you run towards the world gate, but you realize that there's a problem with the world gate. It's been sabotaged. Moya has sabotaged the world gate. And this is Moya's betrayal. How do you guys feel about this? Is this the time we talk about Moya's betrayal? Because we also have to unpack what happens with Seren at the end.
Yeah, I think this is the time. She does talk to you more about it later, though. I guess, yeah, we do have the big moment here of surprise, surprise. Moya is just leaving you here to die.
But do we really think that we would get away without having a Zamorakian betrayal here?
I mean, my reaction was literally understandable. Have a great day.
Why do you say that?
Because I knew she was a snake when I took her in.
Okay, fair enough.
It's cool. You were here for the time being, for the whole saving Gil and all bit. The moment that's done, all right, she's out.
Yeah, I mean, shitty thing to do, but yeah,
it fits within
expected.
the character. It fits within the character.
Well, I guess if she didn't do this, it would kind of beg the question, why Moya in the first place? Like, why couldn't we replace her with some other character if all she did was just assist with things progressing? It could have been anyone else. So I think because it's Moya, it's because of this bit that we needed Moya in the quest, perhaps, for this betrayal.
And it's also probably setting stuff up for the next storyline, I'd imagine, too.
Precisely.
Yeah, and especially contrast with Adrastea.
Yeah.
Two different sides of the coin.
Saradominist
Two complete different sides of the coin right there with that. So, all right. I thought we'd have more controversy over that. So I'm content to move on. I think we all just accept that's within Moya's character at this point.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I could have seen it go either way, because we did have Zamorakian sort of hang around after he left, and I was thinking, okay, so maybe they are a bit more reasonable lately.
She also told us we shouldn't trust her at the beginning either.
That's exactly. So, it could have gone either way, and
Fair.
I guess I wouldn't have been surprised either way.
Fair.
Zamarakians sure are exactly what they say on the tin.
Yeah?
All right. And after this, the sky dims, and we realize that the eggs are hatching. There's a cutscene. Seren says, "So you see, I had no choice. For my family to survive, a world had to die." And with this, they reach down from the sky, the hands of creation itself, to birth their waiting children. And this is another one of the graphical cutscenes showing the elders arriving on Aya, passing memories from one generation to the next. How do you guys feel about using the graphical cutscenes here for this sequence of hatching the eggs?
I feel like this is where their budget for animation should have gone.
I've had a problem with these cutscenes for a while. I think there have been places where they've been quite effective. Examples
Like Battle of the
are
Monolith?
yes. I think they're really good at telling.
It's good.
Like I've been Desperate Measures, where we're hearing the history of the Dragon Kid. I think it's really good at giving exposition of history we haven't been living through. Then there's Asnadra explaining the plan for in City of Centistic. I think these were places where it's acceptable, but
Yeah, I think
when it comes to action with us involved, and
it's a lot easier for it to feel like abstract events that we're not seeing than it is for it to feel like what we are seeing in the here and now. It's very hard for it to actually feel like your point of view.
Yeah, it's just I felt removed from the action, and I didn't really have that gut-dropping moment of, wow, this is actually happening. I was just kind of hearing it recounted, and I got to say, like the bit, I kept going back to the bit where Jazz and Carapat go into Erebus, and it is incredibly powerful, like the narration and the music combined. Like that's a pretty powerful moment, and I enjoyed it to an extent, but I kept thinking this needed to be animated in the live world. Like I really wanted it for this quest, this Grandmaster finale, and I was holding out for it, and yeah.
I looked back on that scene as well, and there is a sense of looking up at it. Like you can see the very tip of the needle at the bottom of the frame, roughly, in the sense that you're looking up past that, and all this is going on in the sky. So I guess in the visual sense, it does try to create that effect of you are there, you are looking up at all this, and yet still not quite, still not as much as yeah. And you can, there's only so much you can try to create motion in a still image.
Yeah, and I honestly think that, like you said, the visual or the artistic cutscenes like this have been very effective. I, was kind of still on the edge of the seat at the time of this, waiting to see what was going to happen to this and what the ultimate end result was going to be. So they serve their purpose for me, because after this you go straight into a discussion with Seren, because she's wondering how you survived this. And it's Guthix's gift, in particular, the soul that we talked about, that we learned about in Desperate Measures, and has been part of us ever since The World Wakes, that little bit of shadow infusion that was amplified by our trip to Erebus here. Seren says that Guthix knew that we need protection from the Great Revision. So this really raises the question of some of the things we were talking about in speculation last week. Did Guthix know that the Great Revision was coming? And with this, do we, as I know you were on the show last week with us, Questscaping, with this, do you think that he knew based on this line with Seren now?
That the Great Revision was coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think one of the things I mentioned last week was that there is essentially this trio of prophecies which he rings up in the Hall of Memories, and it is not necessarily in this order, but the Broken Needle, the Shadow Breach, the Great Revision. And yeah, we do basically have all three of the above playing out right here. Even Seren mentions, oh no, 2 of those have just happened. Whoops.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, he was expecting this, and in the Hall of Memories, it mentions that he's recording his memories in order to stop it, in order to lay down some kind of plan for people in the future, I guess.
And that's really interesting, I guess, when you think about it, because we're not done with the whole World Guardian story, because that's effectively being put on pause at the time being, as we head into the next one, because we'll get into the things that are still left dangling, the dangling plot points. But I want to actually turn to the next source of controversy amongst some of us here in particular. Your character hears the voices when talking with Seren, and Seren hears them as well, and your character asks, are they Sliske? Seren's answer was no, not him. There's something else. Something more. All right, Earth.
I don't feel like this should have been the biggest takeaway from this whole quest. I think that's what's bothering me, and maybe it's just me that this is the biggest takeaway from it.
Okay, well, let's ask everybody else then. Tanis, Alaska, Questcaping, is this the big takeaway for you guys in this quest?
I don't think it's so much the big takeaway, but also...
It's something that keeps sticking out in a way that I wish it wouldn't.
I think
and it's kind of overshadowing other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm trying to say.
I got to ask Modshrike about this week as well on the episode where we discussed the lore ramifications from their side on this. And she said that in one of the early drafts of Eye of Het Part 2, it was made clear that there was a link between the Shadow Voices and Sliske, but the Lore Council said, no, don't do that, because ever since they appeared in Azanadra's quest, they wanted them to be ambiguous. So the decision was made explicitly by Mod Jack in this quest, and since he's in charge of story, to say that no, these are not Sliske, there's something else. So from Jagex's end, they're very adamant.
Mean something different in British English?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because it seemed pretty damn clear to me.
Yeah, you brought the receipts from City of Sentistan and Azanadra's quest, and I've had
Gregorovic coming up to you thinking you're Sliske, and I'm blanking on the other person's name that
Renomia?
So maybe let me find it.
Because there is stuff with Renomia in Once Upon a Time. Now that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that. It was there were 3 people. I found it. Trendine, that's it.
Right, the Vault of Shadows thing.
At the end of Sliske's endgame where Relomia sort of recognizes something.
Yeah, like...
It's been this sort of like steady build of pulling curtains back over time, very gradually for these things, and it almost feels like we're just now closing the curtains again. It feels a bit off, I guess, because I think there was this sort of traction of we're getting clearer and clearer as to what, and I think everyone was pretty much certain is Sliske. We just don't know what form or like what.
Somewhat,
a manifestation.
Yeah, like or what.
The one that makes most sense to me is that it's Guthix through Sliske, like slightly corrupted.
Yeah,
and that's where all of the snarkiness comes from, right?
And the way I was told to think about this was that you can imagine that you have these different voices in your head, like your conscience, so to speak, the good voice and the bad voice, and it's different for everybody.
Oh, is that why they picked the Sliske?
But the reason it's light and shadow, for the World Guardian is because you got that part of shadow anima in you from Guthix's gift.
And then it begs the question, why the Sliske mask?
Right, why the
does
Sliske
Greg
mask?
recognize us, and so on and so on. So it's sort of, we've made all these indicators to Sliske, and now to suddenly remove that idea is a bit jarring.
There's a lot of stuff, and if I'm sort of clinging to the something more, but I genuinely cannot at this point see it being completely unrelated to Sliske, and if it isn't, then you better give me a good reason.
Yeah,
that's what I'm feeling.
It's kind of like
I also think having Seren notoriously unreliable, just went off on her own, did a bunch of stuff. She's not at the top of my list of people I trust right now.
But
like, if you'd had a nice sit down with Azanadra or really him, maybe Saros or something.
I actually want to talk about the trust issues, because that's also very important here, because
Shane, that's for me and my therapist. Not a public audience.
Yeah, we've got daddy issues, we've got trust issues.
Because
Christ, is this a therapy session?
Because you're given a choice at the end of this if you can trust Seren or not. And this is another question I posed to the developers on this, about can you trust Seren and when she says that she's going to keep the eggs on Aya and they're going to be less powerful and they're not going to pose a problem. And the blanket answer to that was yes. And I believe that answer. And I think we should trust Seren on that.
Well, yeah, they said that, in fact, it was the most honest she's ever been in her life, right?
Because she's finally with her family.
Yeah, she got what she wanted, and I just didn't... Why would she be lying at this point?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't think she's going to leave.
No. And if you look at that last cutscene for the quest, you can actually see in the cutscene that there's a Seren's picture in that cutscene after the elders arrive doesn't have her with a mask on. In the final cutscene, that shows Seren.
Yeah, it's a cool visual distinction.
Yeah, you see all 8 eyes, just like the other gods, the other older gods.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, one and the same.
So, there's that. And I had to ask Thaxi about this, because he's a big proponent of Seren. And
I knew there was something off about him.
Because he said that he trusts her still in the aspect that he expects her to act in predictable ways the same way that Zamorak might, but he also feels that she hasn't done anything terribly unexpected or out of character. He's not comfortable with the amount of power that she has right now, but the values that she stands for are still something that he's able to appreciate, and the actions seem appropriate for the character with this. So that's the point of view from somebody who's been a Seren follower since the very beginning.
Speaking of people who have been Seren followers since the very beginning, there was someone else that Alaska and I were streaming with. We were on stream with Tycho, who, as far as I'm aware, has also appeared on RSBANDB a bit in the past. And he is extremely Serenist in game, or at least was, and he thinks this is the point at which he's turning away and can't support her anymore. He actually chose the do not trust option out of all of us.
Yeah, me too. And I was down with Seren.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. A lot of people don't trust Seren, and I'm gaining a new appreciation for her.
All is right with the world.
Seren's fan base has now completely inverted. Perfectly balanced.
But I think it's safe to say at this point that the character arc with Seren is done, because at the end of the quest, she effectively tells you to get out, and if you come across her path again, she'll destroy you. She doesn't say those exact words, she just says, or else.
Okay, bye.
She pretty much does.
Yeah.
Rude.
But
all I've done for her.
I mean, pretty much at this point at the end, we have to wrap the quest up. We find Moya outside the World Gate, who is trying to convince everybody we died. We head back to Sentistan and find out that Seren and Armadil made quick work of the forces. Zuck is back in the kiln. Azanadra sent the glacier back to Lang, and Croesus was completely incinerated.
Yay!
And I know this was something you wanted to bring up, Alaska, is that there could have been a cutscene or something about what was happening and how Seren and Armadil did this, right?
Yeah, like I understand this part of the story isn't really the focus. It was the Elder God Egg, Seren, and so on. But it was a pretty speedy end to the war at Sentistan, which was just such a massive piece of content across the last year or so. So I don't know. I would have liked a little bit more of a wind down, but maybe I think because we were reaching the end of the quest, it just didn't really fit into this segment of the quest where we're trying to close things off and not have battles. We've just had our boss battle, so why would we keep having more battles? But yeah, it felt really disconnected, I guess. So had to have characters tell you, yeah, we did it.
Yeah,
it was a bit okay. Good job.
And one thing that came from our discussion with Mod Jack and Mod Shrike on this was that they said if any fan artists out there want to create their own artistic impression of what that might have looked like in terms of their own visual cutscene of Seren and Armadil mopping things up, they said go and have at it. They'd love to see that.
That sounds fun.
I mean, even before listening to that, I had some very silly ideas in mind. Just booting Zook directly back into the sewer.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to shift now a bit to the meta-analysis. How does everybody feel about the ending here? Because I'll just mention Azanadra quickly. We talked to him at the end. He's still very much a Zaros believer in that he feels that Zaros will still come back at some point.
I mean, he literally said, "My Lord has forsaken me for," what was it?
Oh, that line.
My Lord in his wisdom has forsaken me.
In his wisdom has forsaken me. That line. I was just arm and face. Oh, Azzy.
He is, as always, very much Azzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also learned that the Zaros' last words to him before he left were "do as you wish," meaning Azanadra didn't need to do what he was doing here. He made these choices all on his own. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hope that his, and I think because Erebus and Zaros are still in the air, I'd like to see more of this character arc for Azanadra continue. I truly hope this isn't the end point for it, because kind of like the Sliske Mask, there was a sort of trajectory happening with Azanadra where he had me going in the first part of this talk. I was thinking, oh, he's actually going to admit he's going on his own path now, and then we reverse back and no, he's still very much as the Rasian.
Maybe he'll bring in the new Zerosian Testament.
Yeah. Basically, this would probably having the turnaround there would probably be a bit too much of a moment for after everything.
Yeah. If it can be saved for later, I could be okay with that. If it doesn't end up happening at all, can't say I'm too keen for that though.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we haven't
save for later.
We haven't actually had any content with both Zaros and Azanadra as gods yet,
exactly.
So yeah.
That could be really interesting.
Plenty of work to put in, maybe, and see where it goes. Yeah.
How do we feel about the ending? Tanis, let's start with you.
I was fine with it. I mean, going into it, I was hoping that Zaros would be making we would find the finale of his
right, that this would be a
too.
Zaros Erebus finale as well, right?
Right. But I think the way that it was done, it was done really well. And I thought, at the end that, if Seren is this powerful, then Zaros must be equally powerful.
Yeah. And that's why we couldn't fight Seren 1-to-1, just because you know how powerful Zaros is.
I could have taken her.
They're kind of on the same tier. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was expecting one thing, but I'm not bummed out. I'm glad that there's still a little something more to find out, at some other point.
Okay. Earth, how did you feel about the ending?
I enjoyed it overall. And I think it was said well earlier, I don't like how the unnecessary stuff with the light and shadow voice is what overshadowing everything else, at least for me. There are just some choices in here that were a little confusing, between that and yeah, the eggs are on Frenesque, let's just go there. Then there's no reason to go to all of these other places when that's where the eggs probably are. I liked it. There were just a couple of things that could have been done better, I think.
All right. How about you, Questscaping?
I'm generally fine with that. I saw there were a few concerns, but for one reason or another. Go on.
I agree with you that I'm fine with it as well, and I've seen those concerns as well. But I think you put this so well, and I put this into our notes here. You said this was a finale for the Elder Gods, Seren, the Iluzhanka, Karapak, and the Needle. We also have things that are going to be continuing on, like Zaros, Azinadra, the Light and Shadow Voices, and Guthix's Plan, and the World Guardian arc. Then we also have new angles, like the Contents of Erebus, God versus God, and Adrastia, right? So I think when you look at it that way, this summed up what it needed to do for the eggs and Elder God Wars stuff. I'm sorry for hijacking you, but please continue.
Fine by me, yeah. I saw a few people complaining why wasn't XYZ, most commonly Zaros, not in this. Yeah. And it's not as if this is the end. It's not as if they've just sent him off into Erebus to be left there forevermore. We do have more content to come. Yeah, I also think there's a lot in terms of preferences in general for what you like in stories. Me and Alaska were talking a good deal about this earlier. Like, I think in terms of Alaska, you were saying you'd kind of wished Seren had some kind of character development, where I was saying,
yeah, I'll just quickly say, like, and this is very subjective, because I think, like Shane, you said you like Seren's story arc, and I think because where she started from is someone who was very much shackled to Mar and had this sort of unnatural devotion to the elder gods, to the point where she refers to them as aunts, and I'm like, Seren, please. And I kind of wanted to see a progression of her releasing herself from that and being able to side with mortals. And maybe that's extremely wishful thinking, but I think I was interested to see that story unfold. But what we had was a different one. So maybe this wasn't really the story for me, but then it was for others. So sorry, Questscaping.
Yeah, it's like, in contrast, I am fine with seeing Seren as this strange, weird, eldritch entity who just, I think as Shrike put it on the podcast, just does not change, but rather reacts to all these different tests that her dysfunctional love is being put under. And she finally has something that works for her on her own level of weird godhood and doesn't mess with mortals anymore. Hallelujah. Yeah, there's also concerns about player agency, which I personally am not too invested with. Like, the NPCs are actually my main attachment to this plot, really.
And it comes down to the fact that you really can't have branching story in a big MMO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that recently. Modjack's excellent presentation. But yes, that, and it was a massive downer ending, wasn't it? But I think, I
just got to say, like, I think I would have liked it a little bit more balanced. Again, wishful thinking. Maybe I'm too hopeful and optimistic, but I would have liked it softened a bit with just some happier moments to feel like I could actually celebrate. Because I think, as Andrew was saying, we saved the universe. I'm like, yeah, well, why does it feel like such a downer? So I think I just needed something to just soften it a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah.
I am glad the epilogue exists for that. Like, it's not just Aya is dead and that's the end of it. There is more to it than that. But getting ahead of myself, next person needs to speak.
We'll talk about that in rewards. Actually, we can go there right now. Unless you have anything else, Alaska.
Oh, everything's already been said. I was just going to point out. I think as far as characters who we spent time with on this quest, I do have to preface this by saying I was really keen to see Adrastea in-game. I think she's a cool character with lots of potential. I don't think I wanted her... I think I could have rested having her introduced later if we had someone else maybe take the place in the quest, because I just feel like there was this lack of familiar faces in the team we spent time with for this quest. And, you know, the people who kind of built up the Elder God. I'm thinking of Ariane, Karos, Azanadra, and I know there's probably reasons why they shouldn't have been in this quest as, you know, the people we spent time with, but it just felt like it was a little bit disconnected from the previous entries into the series because we just didn't have enough familiar faces. And I don't know how that rests with everyone else, but I would have, if I kind of look at like While Gothic Sleeps and Witch of the Mardra, it's sort of like these feel a bit more connected because we've got these same people coming back, returning for a finale, and it feels like there's more of a connectedness to that rather than just all the new faces that show up. You know, I love Hannibus and I love Ascendibus, but they weren't really, I guess, Hannibus in Desperate Measures, but it felt like there were just too many new characters popping up in what was a finale. But,
that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism, but at the same point, I don't necessarily know that you'd bring Charos and Thok on this quest.
Oh, yeah. I think, you know, they're pretty much a comedic duo, so definitely you got to be careful about who you pick, I guess, to put in.
Yeah.
But I would have liked a few more familiar.
Right. And, you know, we did have a good amount of development with Ariane in the previous quest, so I can see that as well. So I think that's a fair criticism. I'll ask you now for an overall rating out of 5, Alaska.
I think I gave a number of 6. Oh, sorry, 5. So I'm thinking it's out of 10 because that was the number I gave. Out of 5, I'd say 3.
All right.
Because I didn't hate it, but there was a lot that kind of just got me stuck. So I think it was one of those quests where it was like there are things I genuinely loved and then things that I wish had been done differently. So it was definitely a conflicting one where I've been thinking about all week trying to formulate that opinion. So yeah, it was all right.
All right. Earth?
4. It's... I loved the puzzles. I disagree with some of the choices that were made, but it also opens up a bunch of interesting possibilities for what's next.
Yep.
I'm very curious to see what comes of the possibilities that have been opened with this quest.
All right, sounds good.
Especially with Zaros, Azanadra, and the Sliske voices, which until I'm convinced otherwise in game.
Okay. Questscaping?
I'm happy sitting on a 4 out of 5. I think that was my original impression coming out of it, and I'm still happy sitting there now.
All right. Tanis?
Yeah, I would agree with the 4, even though there were some challenges. It wasn't any more or less egregious than some of the other Grandmaster quests, and the story made up a lot for some of the stuff I had to go through to just to play it.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to go with a 4 as well. Typically, I only like to give 5s if I'm blown away completely. 4 signifies that it was a really good quest in terms of carrying itself through the plot, the environments, the musics, and all that other fun stuff that filters into the quest. So 4 is a no-brainer, but nothing that outright blew me away, knocked me off my chair or anything to that effect. Had that happened, we would have been in the category of a 5. But overall, I think that's a fairly good rating for this quest. So The rewards are 4 quest points, 4 lamps for 175k XP each, and access to the Dream of Aya, which is created after the quest with that extra shard of the needle in the effigy incubator chamber. And what this is a way to access as it says, the Dream of Aya. You get 6 skilling stations offering herblore, fishing, fletching, hunter, construction, and crafting XP. Each station needs 50,000 of each base camp resource to be built, which will store a base of 15,000 XP. And additional XP is stockpiled at a rate of 10 resources per XP, up to 60,000 total XP. And the intention behind this reward was to provide a use for the resources, not necessarily to timegate the Master Quest Cape requirements, because there's one that's behind that, but they are looking at tweaking this reward. It's too early at this point to say what will happen on it, and they're well aware of all the feedback that has been floated on this, just in terms of the fact it was sold as a skilling method, and now it's seen by many as a time gate to things like the Master Quest Cape. So, how do you guys feel about Dream of Aya right now?
Hot tub guy there?
No, not yet.
All right, well, it's a 0 out of 5 for me until hot tub guys. Yeah.
All right. Like, personally, for me, I think this is a good reward in theory, but just the fact that I was hoping I would be able to knock out one of my fletching act tracks there, and I got 37,000 fletching XP for basically all the resources that I had in that skill only. And with this, I don't know that you generate the resources quickly enough to capture the XP on that. That would have been all my wood resources from Anachronia. So I'm on board, and I'm happy that they're going to be looking at this going forward. Any other further thoughts on Dream of Aya?
Yeah, I'm very happy that it exists for lore's sake, and it was a very sweet notion of it just existing in the first place, just creating this little echo of Aya for people to rebuild on.
Yeah.
And I have been avidly trying to progress as fast as possible because I do want the story there, but yeah, I haven't unlocked any. Currently recording on Thursday night, quest released Monday morning, and I don't have any other things so far. This will be extensive. I guess I'm okay with that, but yeah.
Are you a Master Quest Cape holder?
I'm not, no.
Okay.
Only regular Quest Cape.
Alaska, are you?
I think I'm still missing something from the Abyssal Slayer mobs.
Okay.
But yeah, previously I was, and yeah, I will eventually be going for it.
How would it make you feel if you had the Quest Cape and lost it because of this?
The Master Quest Cape?
Yeah.
I am a bit brutal. I kind of just think this is just part of the deal of owning completionist capes like this,
okay,
or Master Quest capes. So,
all right.
I just think it's cosmetic, and there's no functional reason, or no functional reason to have the Master Quest cape. So it's tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a bit quite a lot to get through. And people are never fans of time gated content.
Yeah, and chances are we'll probably be hearing something about this on Monday or so, based on the initial rumblings that we've been hearing on this. So fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Mod Shrike said it best herself, that they know that the rewards kind of missed the mark.
Yeah, and it wasn't meant to be a time gate.
Right, like there's a lot of people like me that, I mean, sure, I might enjoy the story, but if I go through this in a quest, I want a decent reward. I want a Grandmaster level reward.
Yeah, I keep looking at the lamps and just thinking I've gotten that much XP from Treasure Hunter in a day sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like I would have traded the lamps, because from a Grandmaster, what I expect is like a new training method, a new environment, and training method. Like, it always unlocked something, right? These level quests always unlocked something in the game, and this just gave you a way to use resources that I hope you finished your base camp. If you're like me and you never really cared to, well, then there's no reward here at all. So I would have much rather seen a tier 80 or 90 hatchet, or I mean, honestly though, and like been able to skill at Aya,
Right.
something with the skills there would have been much more appealing to me.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see whether it's just rate tweaks that they do or if they add something to it. But like they said on the show on Tuesday, it was still far too early to tell, which makes sense because they got to gather all the data and then come up with a design and iterate and so on and so forth. So
it is a little sad how quickly my resources all just disappear when I'm trying to do this.
Yeah.
And for like 60k XP?
Yeah,
I mean,
I was on this morning, like, let's say 12 or so hours ago. I used up all my resources, put them all together again, and in the process of about 3 minutes, I've used them all again.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously some balancing and whatnot needed there with that. We'll have to wait and see what the response is on that. But the biggest thing I think to take away is that the feedback was taken. Go ahead, Alaska.
Sorry, I do have to correct myself. Master Quest Cape lets you teleport places, so I guess if you want to teleport to behind the scenes anytime soon, you got to get the Dream of Aya finished.
Oh.
But yeah, I also want to say, like, City of Sentistan gave arguably a really good reward that has been really well received by players, the upgraded ancient spells.
Well, of course, it's combat. It's just, they love anything.
I know. But it's kind of like, so that was a previous quest, and I just think there should be some building up as you go, and then when you reach the Grandmaster finale, there's an even better reward. So even if it's like a skilling equivalent, it just needs to be proportional to the type of quest being released, I suppose. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. And I think the point has been heard. I think the community has made that point. We just kind of wanted to go over it for time's sake and cover it. But one thing I think that does need a dose of sober second thought from the community perspective is the post that came out yesterday regarding membership and price changes. Because did you guys see this here? It's actually quite interesting what's happening. So, first and foremost, as of May 4th, the 12-month subscription plan is becoming a 12-month Premier plan that you'll be able to purchase at any point throughout the year that has all the perks of Premier Club.
So no more dips and troughs in the bond prices.
Yeah. And starting on April 19th, Treasure Hunter keys, the sale of Treasure Hunter keys are going to be restricted to only be sold to players over the age of 18. Which I don't think anybody saw that one coming, but I think that's definitely a good change to make.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can disagree with that.
No.
One way of doing it.
And the interesting part about this is that the focus is on this this month-to-month price increase. So the price went up from $10.99 US to $12.49 US, from $6.99 Great British pounds to $8.99 Great British pounds, and €9.49 to €10.99. And a lot of the focus is being placed on that price. But I actually want to talk about the 12-month and 6-month packages that are available. If you get the 12-month package, you're only paying $6.67 a month. If you get the 6-month package, you're only paying $10 a month. So what it's doing is it's encouraging people to subscribe for longer.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about that?
From the business perspective, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the price increases, I just think it doesn't really feel like a good time to be introducing this, because I personally have felt like there's been a bit light with updates lately, and just pairing that with this, now it comes across in a way that isn't going to be well received at all.
And I think that's what everybody is saying, but you look at everything that's happening in the world, you see this in everything from food to gas to electricity. everything is going up in that matter through, when you look at it at the end of the day, it's just inflation. The way it goes up,
it just
goes up
reality.
over time. And
yeah,
the really interesting part about this is that if you look at the actual prices of inflation in the US, England, and the European economic zone, the prices that were put up, if they followed exactly as inflation, particularly in the US and the Eurozone, the prices are actually lower than what inflation would say they are at if you go back to when these prices were last adjusted. So there's that too. They would be 1379 US, 985 euros, and 755 Great British pounds. But that's a little bit different because the pound behaves differently, since it's its own unique currency just for the one country right next to Europe, and they still got the Brexit shockwaves.
The other two are real currencies?
No, they still got the Brexit shockwaves going through the economy. So they're lower in that regard, but when it comes down to it at the end of the day, Alaska made a very interesting point, and I was looking at this prior to the show. You go back to Jagex's financials for the last year, most of the revenue for the company, more than 50% of the revenue for the company, came in from Old School. And what did Old School just finish doing in terms of their content, guys? I don't know if you guys pay attention to what Old School does.
I do play it. I haven't played it in a while.
Leagues.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And leagues are only 2 months. The 3-month package went away. So if you can get people to sign up for 2 months of Old School for $12.49 each, that's more income specifically from the Old School side. Or you can say, hey, play leagues and then play for the 4 months after that. And you get a discount and get it at $10 a month. Or you can come in for an entire year at $6.67, just looking at the US price. So I think a lot of the changes that are being made here, just taking a very high look on this without looking too much at the internals of the company for this year, I would say comes down to the fact that we're probably optimizing membership prices at this point for the Old School market. And RS3 is along for the ride because we know the bulk of RS3's revenue for the last number of years has of course, been from microtransactions. That's my take on what we're seeing here.
Yeah, from the business perspective, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Now it's just down to how the subscribers receive this.
Yeah, exactly. And the way it goes with economics, there's going to be a point where players are going to have to make the decision if they're going month to month. Do I go in for 6 months? Do I want to commit to that $10 a month, or do I want to go in for 12? Or maybe I want to reevaluate if I'm continuing with RS in its entirety, and that's just a natural decision that people are going to make when prices go up of anything in an economy.
It's the economy, stupid.
Yeah, I think that was said by some politician at some point, but I just wanted to provide a bit of a different perspective on this because I feel like it's been one thing after another on this week, and the focus from the quest is gone, which you look at the price increases and the way it was framed, you can see why it's being taken in that way, but there's a different perspective to consider. And we also need to realize that if somebody is wanting to play RS for the long term, that 12-month deal now looks very appetizing, and you can get it at any time of the year now. With all,
like you said, you can get the Premier.
Yeah, the Premier bundle, because previously it just used to be 12 months of membership, and you only used to be able to buy Premier from the end of November until March with a deal on it in November, December, January.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem is that some people can't afford, to drop like $80 at a time. I know for me, this is the upper end of what I think it's worth right now.
Right, but you will stay grandfathered.
No, I'm fine because, honestly, I don't think this price change is that big of a deal. But say had it gone to like 15, or if next year it goes to 15, I think then I would have to make a decision.
Yeah, and that's an entirely valid decision to make, because with this, everything else also went up. Rune Metrics is now $7.99 a month, which you do get a discount if you have Premier Club. It cuts it down by half, so there's that. There's an argument to be made, and we make it each and every November, that Rune Metrics should be included with Premier Club.
Yeah, I think that's... I really feel like that should be a no-brainer.
I'd like it to be, but
because I have it, because
it's very useful.
It is, and I still pay the $5 a month from God knows how long ago. Yeah, so to me, I can do that and buy Rune Metrics, and it's about the price that I would be paying normally, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also, like, I have disposable income, and this is what I choose to spend it on.
Sure.
For me, this is an easy, this is irrelevant to me, but I recognize that is not a position that a lot of people who play this are in.
Yeah, and, with this Rune Coins, Treasure Hunter, keys, everything else also.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mess with any of that, but...
Yeah. And,
like Treasure Hunter, you could have jacked that up as much as you want. I really don't care. Like, you're gambling, gamble. How about a Hoss? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That wouldn't have mattered at all to me.
Kind of like the tax on cigarettes we see, right?
Essentially. Or, everything that's fun,
Did you know that in the UK they have a tax on soft drinks that have sugar in it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned sugar tax.
Yeah, so even if you go out to a restaurant, you're paying more for a regular than a diet.
People have found in ancient, crates in the depths of some corner shop, old iron brew before they changed it for the sugar tax. This beautiful sugary drink in our mouths once more.
Well, just remind me to drink beer when I go to the UK.
Right.
And you'd have to if you wanted to go there.
Just drink water. It's fine.
I don't know. I've always been told not to drink the water if I go somewhere else.
Whoa, no. I drank the water out of the tap in the UK,
it.
and it was fine.
Oh, okay.
You won't die. Shane's still alive, we think.
Yeah. Anyways, folks, with that, I'm content to move on to our picks of the week. So, Questscaping, what do you got for us this week?
All right. So, what I have is actually a tabletop roleplay system. And it's called Yazeba's Bread and Breakfast. I actually found out about this a couple of weeks ago now, because I do have a friend who is one of the writers here, got sent this, and I've been looking into it a bit more lately. I heard one of the chapters being played out. It's essentially, it's a low-key slice of life thing with a set cast of characters, but one that can be as flexible as we want them to be. It's very flexible in general. You play with whatever you got, whoever you have, whenever you can, whenever you feel like. It's the sort of play that works better for people with adult lives and stuff going on. It's nice to be able to just drop in and out and play this familiar set of characters through a set of scenarios it's given, with systems involved for character development through the series of chapters that you go through, and systems involved that can cause character conflict or resolution. So some interesting storytelling tools going on here. Okay. And they're often very simple stories. I listened to a podcast with my friend going through one of these chapters with someone, and it was a simple story about shoveling snow, but one that ended up turning into some big questions about this robot trying to find themselves an identity outside of work. So, yeah. There's some quite good stuff.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'm not much for tabletop games, but I appreciate the effort that goes into into these kind of things. So I think that's very much an RSBANDB update pick of the week. Thank you for that.
Hey.
Alaska, what do you got for us here?
Okay, so there's this performance group called Lost in Translation. Basically, they take movie scripts. They've done Chicken Run, Titanic, Harry Potter, so on. And they take these movie scripts and put them through translators a few times and then back into English. And then the group basically perform them, not with props so much as they kind of voice act and perform the characters as through this revised script. And it has, as you can imagine, hilarious results. So they've done live shows. I went to Chicken Run and that was amazing. Laughed the whole time. They do have a channel up on YouTube. If you just search Lost in Translation, you're going to get back the movie with Bill Murray. So they have one full show. It's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. So that's on their channel right now. If you look up Lost in Translation, Lord of the Rings, you should be able to get that result back. And that one is pretty good too. So they do a great job. There's a lot of effort put in, and it's an easy thing to watch or listen to, really, for some good laughs out of it. Highly recommend it. And I think they did say they were going to put up their other shows eventually. I just can't guarantee it. So for now, there's Lord of the Rings at least, and that's good enough.
This does look fun.
Yeah. And, you know, I absolutely love these kind of things because whenever you put something into a translator and then feed it back, or even if you're doing something as basic as text-to-speech in the same language, there's no telling what you're going to end up with at the end of the day. So when you translate something to a language and then back, I can only imagine how hilarious that is. And I've done that before accidentally with our website, and the result is just hilarious. So...
Yeah, because Gandalf and Frodo and Sam, their names change half a dozen times throughout the course of the recording. And context change and new stories take place, new relationships form, and it is incredible. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Alrighty, thank you for that. Full links to both these picks at our show notes at update.rsbandy.com. Alrighty, let's start with our achievements, and these ones are going to blink by in a flash because we have so many people on the show. So start us off, Tanis.
All right. Starting off, we have Alio Sif with 99 rune crafting and Bart Nels with 99 summoning, all on April 6th.
Nicely done.
On April 5th, Godden got 120 fishing, and Iron Ass got 99 constitution. And on April 4th, Waffens got 99 mining.
Alright, and April the 3rd, Big Diggy got 99 magic, Raven Rain got 120 archaeology, and Underking got 120 fire making.
Woo-wee, nice.
And back on April 2nd, we got Arav with 99 divination and Ubi Danubi with 99 rune crafting.
Then on April 1st, we have Big Diggy with 99 attack, strength, and defense. And that wraps up the achievements of the week. Nice and split up between our hosts here. So, with that being said, what have we been up to in RS? Let's start with you, Tanis.
So, as you know, I had to take a week off, basically, from Yak Track just to work on quests. I had to do the Vault of Shadows, the Battle of the Monolith, Azanadra's quest, City of Santistan, Eye of Het 1 and 2, but we made it through all that, and I was ready.
You're
for
a quester now.
On Monday.
Yay!
Yeah. But believe it or not, guess what task I'm on with my Yak Track?
48.
No, not quite there, but I am at 40, and that is through no effort, right?
That's
just
pretty
my
good.
daily
That's
whatever
pretty good.
I'm doing.
That's where, yeah.
And I just finished 48k Elder Rune bars, and I started working on bodies.
Oh my god! Wow,
Oof,
that's gonna be.
What?
Yeah.
He's getting 120 smithing.
Well, mining.
Oh.
I don't know if I will. I mean, we'll see what I get out of the smithing, but I'm only taking them to 3s, and then we'll be selling them off.
And since someone else has also been progressing Yak Track like that, I'll ask Earth, what are you doing? What are you up to? Where are you at on Yak Track?
I have. Hello?
Yeah, you're good.
I have been doing a lot of bossing lately, thanks to Shane here. Got me into that.
I did now, did I?
After slowly pestering me for months and months, I finally gave in.
Yeah.
And had fun.
There you go.
Here we are.
It's kind of a slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah. Then, I don't know, farming runs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the stealth moneymaker, right?
47 on Yak Track.
Oh, boy, I'm only on 40. You're doing well.
Nerd.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
I think that's all.
All right. How about you, Alaska?
Yeah, I don't know where I'm at with Yak Track, but I know they've been checking off as I've been running laps around Anachronia sometimes. I've been slammed from all ends in real life lately, so I haven't been playing RuneScape as much as I would have previously, but I kind of jump onto AFK, or semi-AFK, the Anachronia agility course, and trying to get towards 200 million agility slowly. Besides that, though, like I've mentioned about getting into PVM, I do jump on for these PVM events I do with Clan every Friday. Well, it's Friday evening for me. I think it's Friday afternoon for a lot of people, time zones. So the one we've got this Friday I have planned is coincidentally very much on theme for the week. It's Karapak in normal mode, just to get people who haven't PVM'd before kind of in on something a bit achievable. But yeah, just a bit of PVM every now and again and agility.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if Clan Quest sounds interesting to you, just hang out in the Clan Chat guest, and we'll bring you in. Lots and lots of fellow podcast listeners and us are in there. And Questcaping, what have you been up to?
So I've been, I'm not as active a player as I used to be, but every so often I try to get back into the PVM just to make sure I've still got it. And yep, was doing a bit of casual racks this morning. Got myself a nice little spider leg bottom, so now I got 2 out of 3 spider leg pieces and just gotta wait till Minion's Path comes back round.
Nice.
So yeah.
The spider,
not too bad.
The spider is actually a boss for me that's gotten more difficult over time, because as my damage output increased, I've just found it so much easier to kill myself there accidentally.
Oh yeah, there's so
that
much
kind of boss.
Yep.
You will be kind of waiting for minions to appear sometimes when you get the health down too fast, so it's a bit of a tricky one.
First phase as well, I find I just obliterate the health bar and just have to wait for the burn to finish.
Well, as for me, this has been a big week on RS for me. A bunch of us got together this past weekend and played RS just together, and part of that was the reason because I was nearing my end completion of completing Dominion Tower, and that was important because that was required for my last tasks in the Desert task set, which allowed me to, of course, complete the elite tasks, but it also got me the final discount to purchase Bones to Peaches. And that also conveniently got me Taskmaster. Or no, I'm sorry. Completing the Lumbridge beginner task is the one that got me Taskmaster, because apparently I forgot to talk to the woman in the Nexus and had an outstanding Lumbridge beginner task set. But anyways, Desert task set complete.
Colossal idiot.
And Lumbridge task set's complete. And as a result of that, those were my last 2 requirements for comp.
Yay.
So I have my completionist cake.
Hey.
So that was
nice.
That was a big milestone in myself that I got on Sunday. So that's what I've been up to in RS. And this has been something that kind of just started a little bit in January and kind of snowballed in February and March to the point where I just had these couple little tasks sitting, and then it was just time to go in and finish it. So that's been done now. I'm not sure what's next. I'm not committing to anything else yet, like Master Quest Cape or...
you say that.
I'm not committing yet to that, but we'll just wait and see. I think if I was to do another one, Master Quest would probably be next, given the clan I'm in and everything. But that's what I've been up to. I don't think there's anything else. Is there anything else anybody would like to say before we disappear?
I got nothing.
No?
All good.
Alrighty. Well, with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. If you want the podcast delivered automatically to you, you can subscribe to it on any number of podcast listeners out there. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, Google, the Amazon service that you can listen to on your device that I won't say the name of, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and of course YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANB. And you can find the full episode of our sit down with Mod Jack and Mod Shrike there on our website at update.rsbnb.com or YouTube at youtube.com/RSBNB. Or, if you just want the audio and you want it delivered automatically to you, subscribe on one of these subscription services that we offer. But with that being said, we'll see you next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Take care, everyone. See you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See ya.